Hey everybody, Alex Kazora, SteelersDepot.com, back with some Pittsburgh Steelers preview and prediction for this Week 8 game between the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are 4-2 against the 5-2 AFC South leading Jacksonville Jaguars. Kickoff Sunday 1 p.m. at Acrisure Stadium. Let's talk about this game. And starting with the Jaguars offense, and a lot of talent at the skilled positions, the eligibles, Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley. I'm a big fan of Evan Ingram. I think he's one of the more underrated tight ends in football, all with Trevor Lawrence getting those guys the football. So from a run game perspective, Etienne, in Pittsburgh, had that 2021 draft, and Etienne and Najee Harris, the top two backs. I'm not here to say who's the better back of the two right now, but I think the reason why Pittsburgh took Harris was he had the size and he had that workhorse ability. But it's funny, you look at, a couple years later, Etienne is the workhorse back in Jacksonville right now, and Harris is in a committee. Etienne leads the NFL with 127 carries. He's playing 80% of the snaps. That's an NFL high for the position. So he's really their all situations, every down kind of guy. He's explosive. I think he's run pretty hard. Overall, he can be an asset out of the backfield, and so he's a guy that really does it all for them in the run game and in pass protection. So, they get the ball on the edge, but it's not just this kind of finesse scheme that you might think about. They run power, they run counter, but they will try to push the ball out on the perimeter because they want to utilize the speed that Etienne has. And I think it's an underrated offensive line overall. Scherf has always been a really good guard. He was a big free agent prize when he came over from Washington. I think Cam Robinson at left tackle has always been, a solid type of dude. They got a rookie and Anton Harrison, the right tackle, who's going to have his challenges against TJ Watt, of course. I'm sure they're going to give him a ton of help, but I think, he's done well overall. So I think it's a pretty underrated offensive line, and it's a good run scheme overall. With the pass game, Pittsburgh's secondary will certainly be tested. You got some guys on the outside that can really win 1v1 matchups, and Ridley, who is not, the numbers been a little hit and miss for him, but when he hits, this guy's a game breaker, and Christian Kirk's been Trevor Lawrence's top target. So, you get a lot of motion. It's an offense similar, I think, to the Rams and kind of how they operate. A lot of 11 personnel, a lot of that, late motion, bunches, the way that they have those kind of top receivers to deal with, an athletic tight end overall, a solid run game. So those are things you have to worry about with them. You get some of those crossing patterns, and you get some, opportunities to hit those guys 1v1. I think play action, another big part, personality of their offense. 1st and 10, first play possessions. They're a pretty heavy play action type of team, so you want to be on alert for that. They're early in drives and on first downs. But again, I think Pittsburgh secondary, with the injuries they have as of this recording, doing it Friday night, they got 3 corners that are questionable, and Porter, Wallace, and Pierre. It sounds like Porter's going to play. I think that's probably the most likely scenario, but nothing guaranteed right now. Less certain, less likely for Pierre and Wallace. I know Wallace has struggled so much, but you might get some new people out there, and maybe a Darius Rush or somebody like that. I mean, obviously, I think Porter, Peterson are going to be your 2 main guys, and maybe Peterson plays on the outside a bit more in this game because of, there's some injuries there, and Shandon Sullivan plays more in the slot. But can those outside corners really compete? They're going to have to. They're going to have to tackle better. You can't have some yak stuff against Ridley, against Christian Kirk. Kirk had that big catch and run to beat the Saints on a 40-yard touchdown. That was like a 5-air yard type of play. So the secondary, which has certainly been up and down and probably more down than up, has to step up in this game. Defensively for Jacksonville, it's a solid unit. It's kind of some weird numbers overall in terms of they're a big interception takeaway team. They lead the NFL with 16 takeaways. Who would have guessed Jacksonville would have been the most, aggressive, taking away type of defense through essentially the midway point of the season. But they don't get a lot of pressure. Their pressure is really concentrated around one guy, Josh Allen, former 7th overall pick. He's got more sacks than the rest of the Jaguars team combined. He's got 7. They have 13 as a team. But they take the ball away quite a bit. And in the pass game, they don't allow a lot of big plays. They keep a lid on things. They play a lot of cover 2, a lot of quarters coverage. The safeties are going to play deep and try to deny some of those big play opportunities. But they do allow a lot of passing yards per game, and they've allowed 10 touchdowns this season. So it's kind of been some funky numbers you wouldn't really expect, numbers that don't always correlate with each other. But their zone personality overall, they got some corners with some size, and Tyson Campbell, that might be their matchup against George Pickens. They were Georgia teammates, so want to see how that one goes. Some smack talk between both sides throughout the week, so we'll see if there's any post-snap type of stuff. Pickens will have to keep a cool head unlike in the Rams game. But yeah, cover 2 versus 2x2. They're also going to run quarters against that as well. In more goal line, fourth down situations, they're going to man up, and that's kind of when they do that. They will bring some pressure packages. The safety Jenkins will blitz some. Their linebacker is going to blitz number 23. He's an every down guy. He's not missed a snap this season. He's going to be an add-on type guy in pressures, and he's going to try to get after the quarterback as well. But Josh Allen's going to be their top guy to watch. On the other end, it's going to be Trayvon Walker, the former number 1 overall pick of the 2022 draft. Numbers aren't gaudy, but he's physical, he's big, he runs hard, he takes away wide receiver screens, and so he's a really good run and chase type player. Can you get some guys to block him? Pittsburgh, I thought, against the Rams, trying to deal with some of their 5-man fronts and block some of their bigger guys on the edge without the tight ends they always have. Frymuth's not a good blocker, but Connor Hayward's not going to be asked to block in that same type of way. Can Washington make an impact? That's going to be key. So I think, how do you handle those edge guys? I thought against the Rams, Pittsburgh had some issues there, especially in pass protection, put a lot on the running back's plate. We'll see what the game plan is in this one. And then a note on the run defense for Jacksonville, which has actually been really solid. They're only allowing 3.8 yards per carry. Again, they don't really allow a lot of big plays. They're a more aggressive one-gap slanting type of team than the Rams, which to me on tape was a bit more of a two-gapping, even with somebody like Aaron Donald. So they're going to try to penetrate. They're going to try to get upfield and create some of those negative plays that have certainly been factors in hindering the Steelers' offense. So can you deal with that? That's going to be key overall. I believe they're a bit weaker out on the edge than they are in the interior, but Pittsburgh probably not as strong out on the edge as they are trying to run it along the interior. So hopefully you kind of see some pulling guards and kind of wash down some of these guys trying to shoot gaps and can really eliminate those type of dudes. So can you get your gap scheme going? Pittsburgh, I think, used it more against the Rams than they probably have in any game this season. That's going to be key. Obviously, the run game in general has to be key and consistent and efficient and keep this team on schedule. They certainly were better against the Rams. The offense certainly felt more alive, more complete. They sustained more, even if the points weren't always there. So it's going to be critical to run the ball against a Jags front that has not allowed a lot on the ground this season. And then one final note, one important note, watch out for the trick play. I think it's so much on Pittsburgh's radar that Mike Tomlin talked about it during his Tuesday press conference. The Jaguars under Doug Peterson, it's always kind of been a bit of a trick play type of coach. You got to watch out for the unique. I talk about Logan Cook, their punter, throwing a pass. It can happen against the Saints, or recently their receiver Christian Kirk's thrown a pass this year. They get the receivers in the run game a fair amount. Not that it's a trick play, but just kind of some different wrinkles. 1st and 10. Watch out for Calvin Ridley. I think he's got 4 carries this year. They've all come on 1st and 10. Jamal Agnew in opposing territory. Watch out for him in the run game. He's a returner background, had a great college career at San Diego, had a good career in Detroit. He's in Jacksonville now, going to play more this weekend with Zay Jones, one of their top receivers, out. Watch out for Wildcat against the Colts. They get a turnover. Jacksonville gets the football on the Colts 22. They bust out read option with the Wildcat and ETN. They get a 22-yard touchdown off of it, off a little, I think, wind back play with Evan Ingram faking one way and then circling back around. So you got to really watch out for something tricky, something unexpected, quote unquote, from Jacksonville. But frankly, at this point, it should be expected. I think Pittsburgh's preparing for it. So all that said, my prediction for this one, and it's a similar predicament I had with the Rams game. I don't feel incredibly confident either way in terms of who I think will win this game. Ultimately, my prediction, to get that out of the way, I got Jacksonville winning this one narrowly, 23-20. And frankly, Pittsburgh's MO has literally been this year either get blown out and lose or win close. And if it's a close game, then Pittsburgh typically finds a way to win those. But I just think Jacksonville, with the passing game, the weapons at receiver, the overall skill guys, Pittsburgh's run defense has not been good without Cam Hayward this year. And can Pittsburgh run the ball against a Jags front that has stopped it, I think, pretty consistently throughout? The Jaguars offense, just more potent overall, gives me the slight edge to Jacksonville. So that's my prediction in this one. But obviously Pittsburgh, they're gritty, they're tough. They win the fourth quarter, they win the final 5 minutes. Kenny Pickett's made plays late, so I'm not going to certainly be shocked if Pittsburgh wins this one. I think it's almost a coin flip type of game, Pittsburgh being at home as well. Jacksonville some extra time to prepare coming off that Week 7 Thursday game, so they kind of had the mini bye there. But that's my prediction in this one. Jacksonville wins by a field goal. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate you guys watching. If you guys could like this video and also subscribe to the channel, would really appreciate that. We'll have a lot of post-game coverage for you guys, and then a quick turnaround to the Titans game on Thursday. The old Sunday to Thursday turnaround, not my favorite, not the player's favorite, but the schedule is the schedule. So, thank you guys for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you soon.